What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 146 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today we have got another I Am a Hardscaper roundtable rally where we bring back returning guests from the I Am a Hardscaper series that have been through the initial interview and the roundtable. And today we discuss struggles in our businesses as we start this spring rush. I thought this was a really important episode to get into, and we discuss things that we're going through in our businesses that we're experiencing right now, whether that be labor issues or prices increasing or just leads coming into the business. It does take a little bit more of a pessimistic tone, but I do feel that this is important to talk about to let everyone know that no matter where you're at in your business, you're still experiencing some sort of struggle, and really the only way through it is just to push on, find solutions, and work forward. So we definitely take a more positive tone by the end of this episode, but I hope this really helps you relate to different issues that you may be struggling with in your business as we get going into the season. And if you need bookkeeping, CFO services, or accountants to help you out that are specialized in the hardscape and landscape industry, check out Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com and mention How to Hardscape for $200 off. That's cyclecpa.com. We'll talk about them more later in this episode. And without further ado, let's get into this. And before we get into this episode, there are some swears that are said throughout this episode, so just to give you a warning about that. What's happening, Hardscapers? Today we're joined by another 5 returning guests. Thank you so much, guys, for coming back on for another roundtable rally. We've got Chad from Natural Design Landscapes, Matt from Hardscape Ottawa, Mike from Elevate Outdoor Living, Mike from Paver King as well, and Antonio from Zeppas. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here today once again. And I just wanted to talk about a struggle or multiple struggles that you're experiencing in your business at any time as we start the season. Spring rush is upon us. And just to kind of get the conversation started, I'll put mine out there. Obviously, there's many more struggles than just one in probably all of our businesses, especially what we're dealing with price increases, and we can maybe touch on that a little bit later. But and labor is always a thing as well. But just personally right now, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this, and it's not a huge struggle because I'm so booked out into the season that it's not so much of a concern right now, but I have seen a decline in leads coming in to my business compared to last year where I was at. But obviously last year was such an amazing year, and the year before that. But I see a very small percentage of my leads being brand new leads, whereas a majority of my leads are leads that have contacted me in the past 2 years and are going ahead with their projects now. I don't know if you've seen this problem, but I haven't had this much of a disparity between those two. Like I said, it's not so much of a huge struggle because of where I'm booked out in my business, but just to open the conversation a bit, what are you guys seeing in your marketing? Are you even actively marketing, or what does that look like in your business in terms of worrying about those new leads coming in?
Mike, I've actually experienced sort of the same thing as you, where a lot of the leads that have been coming in lately, and I kind of spoke through and asked some questions of one of them today of just, basically where their head's at and where their mindset is at. And it's sort of like they figure, okay, the pandemic is over now. So now everyone, because they're so busy over the pandemic, they couldn't get anyone to do the work. Well, that's over now. So now they should be able to just call up in the spring and get it done in May, sort of thing. And aren't liking the same answer as what you're given, where, a lot of the people, the projects that we're doing this year, we were talking to this time last year. Basically I've found that, a lot of the leads are kind of like, oh, you can't do it right now. Like, never mind, then I'll find someone who can.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that same thing. I feel like we're kind of going into a big storm, so to speak, of, pandemic's over. People are going to start putting their money maybe more into travel, as opposed to maybe their outdoor living spaces, or maybe this is just like a small little blip that we're experiencing as we start the season, and then we're going to get into like a major storm of leads coming in, so to speak. But if anybody else has any other insight in their own businesses about this, about kind of new fresh leads coming into the businesses kind of dropping off a little bit, or if you have another struggle that you want to talk about, the floor is open to you.
I think for us, we never have had a lot of leads ever come in because I do as little marketing as absolutely like I do zero marketing. So I think that the difference is some of the leads we're getting this year are like front walkways and not huge jobs. which I'm fine with. They all pay the same if you price them right. So there's no bad job. There's only a bad price. But like, I think that like some of these like epic projects we were getting called for the last couple of years, that the leads are just different. They're not the same. I guess they're more of a traditional base of what we usually would see. They're not like, I want to spend 400 grand on my back. It's more of a, like I'm trying to renovate my front walkway, and, they're still great jobs. They're just not the same kind of like epic things that maybe we were seeing the last couple of years. If that's a struggle, then, whatever. I think that maybe that's more of that to come, like I'm old. So in 2007 and 2008, I used to do 140 walkways a year to survive, because that's all there was. But maybe that's sort of what's leading into the next couple of years. Everyone's going to have to maybe grind harder and do more jobs than they want to do. And maybe, I don't know. That's sort of my impression of it.
I can't really comment too much. I don't answer my phone. I haven't answered my phone in 2 years. Whenever, like, I screen everything. Like, if you call Natural Design, don't expect to talk to me unless your number is already in my speed dial, right? So, for us, we're still getting a lot of calls and stuff. But again, maybe I'm just jaded and getting old or something, but at this point now, there's so much coming in. I don't want to do an estimate for free. I think I put out a post there yesterday or something. We're not going to do free consults anymore. And I spoke to Matt this morning, actually. People are asking us to come out and give them some ideas and stuff like that. I'm not in the business of giving out ideas anymore. I think there's a fine line between consulting and customer service. And at this stage, after I put in 15, 20 years of my landscape expertise, I'm not so willing to give out ideas for free because it took me so long to sculpt them to be the right ideas to begin with. And I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything. It's just, man, estimates eat up so much time that I just don't have time to do them all.
Yeah, we've done a good push in marketing. Obviously coming off of winter, it's still kind of dragging on here in Michigan. The weather's still kind of crummy, but we did a big push. We do a lot of direct mail, and last year, like, our season was full. The first round of direct mail we did, it was crazy, the response rate. This year, I'm like expecting, these leads to come in and expecting kind of the same thing as last year. There's definitely a more of a slower turn to it, and it's just not as quick as what it was. And so I think people are maybe thinking about it a little bit more. They're just thinking about, maybe some other projects that aren't in the outdoor space, but and then same thing, we do, some Facebook stuff, but haven't seen a big rush, like a spring rush yet. And of course, we're booked out plenty fine, and I've kind of put up some barriers, like a lot of you guys. Just, we want to push everyone through our website. So, if we see the website leads come in, I'm kind of the same way. Like, we're not answering our phones, or at least I'm not. I'd have someone else do that, but we want to push them through our whole process and have them kind of vet themselves before we get to it. So I just think it's partially that we just haven't found the right people yet that are willing to kind of jump through our hoops in order for us to work together. So,
yeah.
I like that mentality. Make them jump through your hoops to have them work for you. I think it's well-deserved after so many years in business.
Absolutely.
Scheller, I know you're booked out for, I think, the rest of the year, and then even into next year, you've got some projects that you're designing, working on, trying to close there. Have you seen more leads coming in to your business in terms of where you're at in comparison to previous years?
Well, last year was my previous year, right. And we got booked out kind of quickly there with some projects, but it's really strange. Because of the way I guess because I don't market and I don't like advertise that we're looking for work. I don't really get a lot of leads. I had 2 or 3 the last few days that I've just told them, no, we can't help you. That's not the type of project we do. You know, I've actually decided this week, based on I think we're closing the project tonight, but I think it's going to be fall before I even do consultations, because I can't do the pricing. It doesn't make sense for me to price a project for May of next year. I think we're pretty much, we sold a pool for next year at the end of last year on a new home construction. So that's my first job next year. So I'm booking around that. And that may, it may vary with how the builder does or whatever, but basically I don't want to take on any more projects where I have to quote them with pricing I have no idea. So, I mean, I could probably give a ballpark, but if they want to get on the list, we could probably do some kind of retainer or something. I don't really even know. I'm trying to figure out in my head how to actually work this, because we basically have 3 to 4 more projects sold for this year that are basically just like the one we're doing now. So it's I can't take on any more work without finding a lot of help, and I can't find help. So so that's where that's where the challenge is. So I just had a meeting with my accountant. They're taking on more of my bookkeeping and administrative stuff to help me not have to worry as much about trying to get in the office and do all that stuff. And if I don't have to do meetings and consultations and estimates, that's going to free up more time for production. And that's what I really need to get done now. So if that answers your question, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
it's a challenge both ways, trying to manage it all.
Definitely. Yeah. And like I said, not a huge struggle to really go through, being that we've gone through 2 really amazing years. And I'm sure most of us here are really booked out for at least a lot of this year. But how about other struggles that you're experiencing right now in your business in terms of maybe price increases? Getting equipment's still a struggle. Materials, I've heard some things going up quite a bit in terms of percentage. That's still to be expected. And, how are you handling these things? Is this even a struggle with you and your business, or did you just move forward and kind of have it in your contract and have an understanding with certain clients that, prices can increase and they'll be reflected in the quote? Or just other struggles in general? What are you guys going through right now as spring rush is upon us?
I was going to say one for us is equipment, was one of them. So we ordered a machine last year in September, just well thought out, planned, it's going to be here beginning of March. Awesome. Kind of forgot about it and, checked up on it in January, still March, end of January. And then it moved back to, beginning of May, checked at the end of February. Now it's end of July, and I'm going, oh crap. And so, that was kind of the situation that I've been recently working through. And my equipment dealer had a couple machines, and I demoed them out, and he actually had the 2 available. And so, like, one big thing for me was like the price jump in the machine that we were going to order a full size stand on, so a $60,000 machine. And now I'm looking at $90,000 machines. So that price increase just in machine, I really had to think about it. I was comfortable at the 60. Now I really, really got to put pen to paper and see if the numbers make sense. And after running the numbers on leasing, renting, and buying, we did end up, pulling the trigger on a machine. But, I think the big thing is just really thinking about it. And thinking about if it makes sense, especially with, what the future has in store for us, and it's kind of unknown, but, I did have to jump on, we needed a full size machine, but it sucked because it felt like a pressure situation almost, like I had to make a decision.
Definitely.
Oh, and right now on equipment, you have to make, or if you find a truck or a machine, you have to decide right now, or it's gone. Somebody else will take it. So yeah, it does put a lot of pressure.
Definitely. Paver King, what were you going to say?
I think that I don't know about everyone in the group, but like we run 4 big trucks, like 2 triax, 2 bin trucks, and so for a couple weeks, fuel was a challenge. You know, I knew we were going to get punched in the face as soon as the fuel went up, and then it would sort itself out. So for a couple weeks, we just sort of waited it. Now we like a couple of our big clients are doing fuel surcharges. Our biggest client, I split the cost. It costs $10 an hour more per truck to run them. There's 4, so it's $40 an hour more for us every hour of every day. So it's $400 more a day we spend in fuel, which is $2,000 a week, $10,000 a month. So, you know, to recover that for us was a challenge. So for a couple of weeks, I think we probably just, you know, I won't use those weeks if I'm applying for fucking bank loan. But you know, I think that it did start to sort itself out with, you know, we put up our rates a bit, and a lot of our bin clients called us and understood that we're not making extra money because they're the same problems they're having with the fuel. So the fuel, I think, is for us kind of getting in check, but for a couple of weeks there, it was a bit of a challenge until everyone figured out how they were going to handle it. But for us, that start of that month was probably not our best month ever, but you know, up and down, that's the way it goes. So it is what it is.
Actually, I saw someone had created a spreadsheet the other day where it basically running a truck at $105 an hour was a losing endeavor over the course of the year. So you'd need to be above that basically to make any money.
Well, it depends on how you, like, this is a landscaping thing. It's not a trucking thing, I know, but it depends on, that's like someone doing really easy math and like not actually probably being in the business. But, you know, if you own a bunch of trucks, you have to find a way to get those trucks paid to have them not rolling if you want money in trucking. So like I endeavor to find ways for our trucks to be parked doing nothing and getting paid, or working for people where they're only hauling a quarter of a load, or like trucking is like, if you want to just run your truck full all day at $105 an hour, you're going to go broke. I agree. But you have to be more creative than that, I guess, which is for everyone with the fuel. Like, yeah. I know one guy who sent a letter to all his clients, and he's, you know, any projects he bid in 2021, he's charging them a fuel surcharge for every day he's on their project. Any projects he closed in 2021, he's charging a $60 fuel surcharge because that's what it's costing him every day extra to be there, which, you know, I think that's pretty ballsy. Props to him. No one, as far as I know, last time I talked to him, no one canceled their project over it. So, but it was a challenge for us. Like trucking is always a challenge. You either got to love it and you got to love the trucks, or you can't do it. So it's not something that like. If you don't love big trucks, I don't recommend anyone get into it. That's not, you got to love it.
Fair enough.
You know.
And I guess knowing your numbers on that is such a crucial thing. Obviously, Mike, you've got that, you know, down to science there per day, per week, per month. You know that.
My wife disagree with you, Mike, but sure. Yeah, I absolutely got it down to a science.
And Chad, you were gonna say something there as well. What did you have on your mind?
Well, just to play off that, I think we got all our numbers dialed in again. I put out some feelers on Instagram and to try and find out where everybody is as far as price increases and stuff like that. I think that's dialed in for the most part. Clients are receptive to it. Honestly, it hasn't been a problem getting the work. We've always had the work, and we'll make it work. It's just what was I going to say? Great. Okay, go see mama. Go see mama. Go. It's the biggest thing for us is time. I overbook myself again. Like I say, I'll never do every season. We're double booked. Clients are adding more onto jobs that we're already on. So like extra weeks of work that shouldn't be there, and we're supposed to be moving on to the next one. And that's going to be the trickiest part. If we could buy time, that would be phenomenal. Like I'd pay money to have more time in the season. So the biggest thing, I mean, that can sort of maybe be solved with manpower, but We have a crew of 7 plus 3 new guys, so I'm not sure how much we can speed up our productivity that way. The biggest thing for us is time, not money, which is, I guess, not a terrible problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
Could be both.
Yeah.
So we're trying to communicate really well, as with being booked out so far and on larger projects, and a lot of materials or things to purchase, which is mostly pools or pavers or outdoor kitchen stuff or plumbing. So I've just been communicating with our clients, and sometimes we'll get a price increase with no notice, and sometimes we'll get a price increase with notice. The pools are usually with notice, so what I'll do is I'll call my clients and say, hey, price is going up. If you want to stay where you are, I'll go ahead and take, we've already ordered the pool, but I'll take your full draw now. We can hold the pool price if we pay for it in full. So that's how my manufacturer's been working with us. So, that's, and all of them take advantage of that. So they don't want to see any increase on that part if they can control it. So we've been taking smaller deposits, but then we'll just communicate along the process. And we're basically buying all of our, I just got quotes today for plumbing. So we're going to pre-buy all the plumbing for every job, all the pool equipment for every job, but the pool equipment's delivered with our pools in our situation. So we don't have to store that. Pavers, we can typically lock in with an order. We don't have to pay up front necessarily. Same with plants usually. So we're just getting the things. Well, since we have the shop now, it makes it a little easier to store kind of the bulk products that we need and that we're going to need all year. So we're just trying to approach it in a way that we're communicating with the client. We're also pre-buying, trying to hold pricing. And then I just revisited my budget and visited with my accountant today, and we kind of revamped our stuff to make sure that we're covered for now anyway. So
yeah,
we're just I think the important thing is to just keep lines of communication open with the jobs you sold, and then make sure that on the jobs you're fitting that you're looking at your side, your numbers, and what it's going to take to make the next estimate work. So I guess that would be my take on that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, knowing how your vendors work and having a good relationship is, now's the time to have that sort of thing in place. Antonio, I don't know if you're there, but I'll ask you next. But Matt, anything that you're struggling with at the beginning of the season as we get into things here?
Yeah, I mean, no struggles. More just everything is happening way too fast all the time, and there's never enough time. Like Chad was saying, it's you sit down and plan to get something done. I've had instances where I started a quote at like 11 a.m. on a Wednesday and finished it at noon on Friday, and worked 12-hour days all through, and just didn't manage to touch that again, sort of thing. So it's just trying to get everything in line. We're pretty big lofty goals for our gross revenue this year, and that should result in a lofty net revenue as well, hopefully. So it's all just trying to catch up with that. We had, especially kind of relating back to what you're looking with the kind of like price increases and stuff like that, is a lot of our projects are people that we were talking to last year, the people that we worked through like up to like V6 of design through with on things. And now finally we have our budget together now that we received our price lists kind of middle to end of February, and it's been we've got quite a backlog of people that we're working out all the contracts with and everything for the end of this year and into 23. But lots on the go here. Season will be starting up in a week or two as well, so that's just trying to get all this stuff done on time is really the biggest struggle.
Yeah, no, absolutely, especially with the start of the season. I just want to take a moment to talk about Cycle CPA right now. In your business, you want accurate bookkeeping and financial statements every month, but instead, you're often left with limited time to focus on the accounting side of your business and no reports to show for it. At Cycle CPA, they not only handle the bookkeeping, but also provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing, super important, financials by service line, advisory, meetings, and so much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants can do anything from bookkeeping to CFO services. And they're specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, so if you want somebody to take care of your numbers to help you through that process so that you're not coming home late at night after a day on the job site and having to do this, visit cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. You know, I think it's important to note, like, with all these struggles, you know, you just got to really work through them. And with price increases, I haven't had a client yet that I've given a quote last year and that I had an expiry on that quote where I've said, hey, like, you're coming to me this year, you want to go ahead with it, but you know what, everything is an increase in price. This quote's going to increase in price. Are you going to be okay with going ahead with this if it's this price? I haven't had a no. So, I mean, as long as you got your ducks in a row and you kind of go about it a certain way, and, you know, it's everybody's dealing with price increases. It's not a huge thing to have to move through. Obviously, there may be some struggles, as you know, Mike, you said from Paver King there with gas and how you had to move through those first couple of weeks, but eventually, you know, you get through it, or I don't know, you don't, or however that works in your business.
Yeah, just make sure you're not the one paying it. You know,
yes.
That's the thing. It's like you're including your customer in those expenses.
Yeah, to like just directly combat any sort of unforeseen price increases and stuff, there's a clause in our contract that basically states that, you know, if we have through proof of, we had a dated price list, so we make sure to really stay on top of that. We have a folder in our drive of just, you know, here's all the price lists of when we use them, and try and stay up to date on those. And then, you know, it comes time to pay for these materials, it's just is what it is. If it's increased more than 5%, then we're entitled to the difference in that immediately. We have it worded so we're not like profiting off them and making more money off that, but it's the difference in the raw materials price. So it's irrelevant what our markup was on it. It's like, look, we had a price list, it was for this much, it's now gone up this much, that's the difference, you pay that sort of thing. So it's we've got that there. Luckily though, like, while stuff is unstable, it's not that unstable. Like, paver materials are mostly locked in for the year, which is the majority of what we're doing for products out the door. Wood is really like the big thing, but it's just something to kind of explore at the time and go from there.
Wood and PVC seems to be a little bit.
Yeah. The opposite's been a little wild too.
I mean, for us, for residential stuff, I mean, if the client's not paying their material in full, when they sign up for the job, then we're not taking the job. It's just to just take that variable out of the whole thing right there. You're either paying the price that we quoted you for your material, or we don't need the headache of dealing with your job. Plus, they're not going to hold the material, and if it's not prepaid from our retailer, at least, you're not going to get it. So it sort of makes things easy for us. And I don't mind it because it's one less thing to worry about after the material's paid, right?
Yeah.
You come to the big city, your suppliers love you and will just bring in stock for you, and you pay when it goes out their door.
Well, I mean,
that's how I work. I just put an order in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they'll hold stuff for me and stuff, but it's not worth it to not have the client. They should be able to afford their own material. Right, like,
sure, but now you're divulging your labor rates, which then puts up arguments.
Which is fine. I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything in business, right?
Sure.
Like, I'll be transparent.
People can't understand how you know you have to charge out $100 an hour in order to be able to pay someone 25, sort of thing, right?
Well, that's a deal if it's $100 an hour.
Yeah, no, that's it too. Right? You're right about
that. But no, I don't. I completely don't mind. I'll share my rates with almost anyone. Right? You have to be able to do what we do. Right? There's a skill associated with it. Right? Like, you can have whatever hourly rate you want, but unless you have the skill to back it up or the speed to back it up, right? Because it's not just. There's a lot of variables that come into an hourly rate, right? Like, I can build a wall twice as fast as the next guy, or I can lay twice as many pavers in an hour as the next guy, right? Like, and straighter and
That's how it's like. If we all ran appropriate budgets for our business, that's how we would win projects, is by being more efficient. Unfortunately, that's not the state of the marketplace right now, and people just haven't ran budgets and don't charge enough. But it's basically that's what you're absolutely right, Chad, is that it's like efficiency is what should be the difference between contractor A, B, or C having the better price on the job, and that's basically it. Everything else should be the same.
Yeah. I was in a meeting this morning with a contractor that we work with, a builder, and he was saying, "Oh, my buddy is going to get you back to do his, and my brother's not sure yet. It's either you or this guy." And I said, "Well, honestly, I won't be offended if it's the other guy." And then the client goes on to say, "Yeah, but it took him 6 weeks to do a 1 week job, and I know you'll do it in 5 days of that week job, right?" So, I mean, are we apples to apples? I don't know. Are we hourly to hourly? I don't know. It's there's more to it than maybe a dollar value, or I don't know.
Yeah, efficiency is good, and I think it definitely affects on everything. But you can be the most efficient person in the world, but if your overhead is completely out of control, it doesn't matter.
That too.
I agree that efficiency definitely will dictate pricing in the market, and you could be low and get the job, but you could also be low because you don't drive 10 Denali's.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm just saying, like I don't have any Denali's. I have no Denali's. So my overhead is probably lower than the guy with 30 Denali's. How
many Denali's does Chad have is the question.
I have 0. I will never drive a GM ever, ever. I have one GM. It's our water truck, and I don't have a license for it.
That's what it is.
What's that?
The Longhorn edition in the Ram. That's what you.
Yeah, that's I spoiled myself there. But yeah, I don't know. We our numbers work for us, right? Could another company jump into my books and take over and do completely the same? Maybe they could do better. I don't know, right? But I'm still here 12 years later. We seem to show some growth. The books look good. The bank likes the way it looks. So I'm happy. I'm not eating Franken beans every night. So
just now and then, because they're delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like, as I said, like it's basically like if we all had the exact same bills and we all ran the appropriate budget on it, then sure, there's absolutely different variations, like if your overhead is out of control. But if you were extra efficient, then you could just happily have Denali's and not even think about it too. So there's
how you get the Denali's.
Exactly.
I think I touched on this in the group. It seems like a lot of contractors are out buying everything. They're buying like 3 new shovels and they're painting them all fancy colors, and hey, we got 4 new trucks and all this. Nobody seems afraid, right? Like we talked earlier about how maybe the phone isn't ringing the same as it was before. But everybody, clients and contractors for sure, are still spending money. Like I want to sort of see what's in these guys' brains or in their thought process. Like, I understand you need the machine this year. Are you not afraid if you're going to need it next year or the year after? Because you're still going to have that in your overhead and maybe you won't have the work for it. Like, that's what scares me the most about this whole situation, the whole post-COVID wave, maybe falling out and stuff. That's what scares me a bit.
I think like when I, decided to pull the trigger on our machine, right? Like it's a big decision. We try and limit our liabilities. And so we also looked at, not just what a machine would cost us to either rent, buy, or lease, but we also looked at what liabilities do we already have, and said, okay, this year, can we accelerate these and pay these off? And, we looked at them and we're like, we could drop 2 payments in the next, 4 months with, the income just that we have on the books, and so we're kind of preparing for that, and thinking ahead of like, it's just not, can you afford the payment now, but it's, you just plan for the future.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many guys that just get caught up in the here and now, and I was not, I just started my business in 2008 and I was just a young punk ass in high school. So I didn't pay attention to it, but you hear so many people talk about, this bubble that burst. And I guess where I want to be is I just want to make sure that I'm taken care of. And I know my number of what I need to be comfortable. Yeah. I know it, I can survive for, however many months on this much money. I know that number, and that's important, so it's the big thing is just, is knowing why you're making these decisions, and how they're going to affect you for the future.
Yeah. One thing I'd kind of like to jump in here with is that this conversation has been particularly pessimistic. And the reality is that I don't think that the outdoor living space industry is just going to disappear overnight. There's tons of houses going up. There's tons of people that want that extension to their living space. There's tons of people that want to have that staycation experience. It's not going anywhere. We maybe have a little bit of a lull right now, but I think it's because a lot of those people that do respect and understand what that is also understand and respect that, like everybody's pretty swamped and they've already talked to us and they never expected to get it done this year, or those people are maybe waiting and just saying, okay, well, wait till next year if they haven't contacted us already, sort of thing. So I think that our industry is in a fantastic place. I know for a fact that this region went through double the amount of pavers in 2022 versus 2019. So it's like people talk about a lot about material shortages and and it's like, well, wait a minute, like the manufacturers actually pumped twice the amount of product into the marketplace in that period. So like, were we short? Like, no, they're doing double what they were doing before. And that is a fantastic sign of where our industry is at. Like, it's not something that, there's a lot of, I feel like, as I said, there's a lot of doomsaying right now. And I don't really think that that's where our industry is at. It's absolutely, we need to be cautious moving forward. Myself as well. I've got my machines for the next little bit. We're going to wait another year or two before we invest in any more of that, likely. But that said, like, our industry is in a pretty great spot right now, and it's not just going to all overnight disappear either. And it's
not a light switch. It doesn't turn off like a light switch.
Well, yeah. And I think from my time in 2008, I think we had a pretty good crash, and it actually started my former business in 2008 also. And I didn't, when you're starting out, you don't sometimes realize it, but what I focused on was, people that wanted to invest in their homes, and that seemed like if the market was down, they were investing in their houses because they felt like they would get the return there.
Discount. That's the trick.
Yeah. So I think if your client base is right and the type of projects you do, you'll keep finding the people that have the resources to still accomplish. It may not be to the level that we've seen, the extravagance that we've seen, but the people that usually have the resources usually still have the resources. So if you're targeting the right clientele, and then if you have to fill in with some other, I've done carpentry and stuff, so I was finishing basements and remodeling bathrooms and all kinds of stuff in that time, because I would take what we could get. But at the same time, I didn't really want for work because of the way I was, like, I didn't approach any new home builders or anything like that. But there is still, a lot of new homes being built, and that doesn't seem to be going away. So I think, Matt, you hit on a good point. I think people are calling around and nobody can get to them, and it's probably frustrating to a lot of people. Or they don't want to wait 6, 10, 12 months to get it done. So we are in a good spot, I think, too. So but I kind of went crazy. I mean, I'm an open book, so I have debt on equipment and stuff and trucks. But right this year, I pretty much I bought a new compactor to just help us be more efficient, a bigger one. But I'm trying to limit. I think I'm in a really good spot for what we need and how we're set up. So I'm going to ride with what we're doing right now. And and see how that goes. So, and try to get other things paid down or pay cash for whatever we need next or whatever. So we're trying to now that we're kind of set up, we're trying to roll with the setup that we have, and I think it's a pretty good one.
I think that, I've been doing this like 30 years now, whatever. I think that the last couple of years, it's been, the sales part of it has been easy. I think there's tons of leads and people don't want to wait. And anyone on the planet that says they own a shovel could sell any job they want. And I think that more than likely it's going to get harder to close jobs, and it's going to matter that you know how to sell.
Yep.
And, for me, I'm good with that. I sold when it was the worst time ever. I sold 100 jobs a year at $2,000 a job to survive. But like, I think that I'm doesn't bother me. I'd like to see some of the, the people who are just bounced in the industry because it was, easy to sell a job and make a quick buck to get bounced out. That doesn't bother me at all. I could care.
I'll have a job sitting here waiting for them.
Yeah. Like, we
could use the help.
Yeah.
As soon as like, and I know that everyone struggles with business, so I don't want to take it the wrong way, but like, landscaping has been easy for the last 2 years. You can sell as much jobs as you want. You can price it as high as you want. You can screw up as many times as you want. And people just keep paying and paying and paying and rescuing you from all your problems and saving you because you're making moronic decisions. And like, but I think that, in the next couple of years that level of people just being willing to pay, I'm getting, more serious questions than I got in the last 2 years about things and stuff. People aren't just willing to accept anything. And I think that's great because these people who are moronically screwing up everything aren't helping in the end. And everyone's right. Like maybe a lot of those people are better suited being a landscape foreman, not a landscape owner. And, it might stimulate them back into the industry. So like, and into a different role in the industry. I don't know. That's just my opinion on it that, it's been, I'm not saying that minimizing anyone's effort, but it's been pretty easy to be a landscaper the last 2 years compared to a lot of years that I did it. So, maybe a few years where it's a bit harder might clear out.
Hold the herd a little bit.
There you go. Call them. Redistribute the herd.
Yeah.
So anyways, soccer practice is over. So I'm out on that note. I hope it wasn't overtly pessimistic. I feel like I'm happy
with you.
My last bit of commentary, and everyone can find me on OnlyFans.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, you weren't too pessimistic with all the Denali talk and and everything that you brought up there. Like I don't like to try to talk as much during these roundtables. I like to just hear you guys talk. But just riffing off of what Matt said there, it's been an amazing 2 years, and what this 2 years has brought this industry is only going to be good for the industry moving forward. Outdoor living has completely changed in people's eyes. The amount of interlock being installed is only continuing to go up. Like there's so much positivity around this, and I just get like going back to my situation, and not that I think it's going to change. Like I think that we'll definitely see like a huge influx of leads coming in soon, and it's still not even a bad thing. Like I'm booked out more than I even really want to be, but I do get messages from guys wanting to hear more struggles, because sometimes when they're struggling and they hear podcasts about everything being so good, they just can't relate to it, and they feel like they're kind of messing up somehow or something like that. And it could be that they're just new to business, or they're struggling with this and that, and they just don't hear it. And this is where like I want to have a podcast talking about struggles. It does turn into that pessimistic tone sometimes, definitely, but it definitely adds something to those going through certain struggles or seeing things and wondering why it's not happening to somebody else. And then going back to my position, like I know guys that are being like overloaded with leads. So it's not just one or the other. It's definitely a wide variety throughout.
I think that's a good point. I think a lot of us are in different places in our business. Like I'm booked out for a year because I have me and one other guy, and that's just the reality of it. If I had, 10 guys, we'd probably be booked out for 6 months or something, which that math doesn't really work out. But, so I'm looking for employees, and that's a struggle, and finding people that have the skill or the interest, or even paying people that have no experience, offering them money I would never consider, a couple of years ago. That part's a struggle. Still looking for those right people, but also like I decided to take on a project during the winter thinking it'd be a good idea, and it's drug on because the weather's killed us. We typically have mild winters with not a lot of snow, and we had a little bit more snow than normal, colder temperatures than normal, deeper frost than normal. Now we're having a lot of rain. I just can't get out, and we got all this work to do. So I think a lot of the struggles each company might be set up differently, and how they operate might be different, but the struggles I think remain, and that is finding good people, dealing with weather, price increases, how to find equipment, and all that. So yeah, I think that's one thing social media does, is kind of puts everything, looks very good a lot of times. So I always appreciate when people share their struggles as well. So.
I think one thing, that I think a lot of us go through, and something that I always catch myself on, but if you're struggling, for anyone out there who's listening to this, or you guys, I think it's mindset. You have to be in the right mindset. You have to be in a winning mindset, a positive mindset. And, that's really changed like how I run myself every single day, and if you're looking at the glass half empty, shit's going to look half empty all the time, and so if you look at the glass half full, you can bring light into any bad situation ever. Okay. It's perspective. It's how you look at it. It's how, your mind takes it. And, I would challenge anyone, just change your perspective, change your mindset into, man, we're going to have a badass year this year. We're going to crush it. We're going to do new things. We're going to push the bar on what we can do. I'm going to challenge myself to get better and learn my numbers. And I'm going to challenge myself to, be better at communication. We all suck at communication. We just admitted it on this podcast that we're not answering our phones. Get back to you. We're all going to get better at communication. I'm terrible at job planning. I'll go out and admit it. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm not good at planning out a job, because what happens to all of us, or a lot of us, is we get on a job site and, all right, let's build some shit, and that's all we want to do. We just want to go. And so one of the things that I struggle with, and that I'm going to be working on this year, is planning, and that's going to help us be more efficient. That's just something that it doesn't cost money. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just effort, it's just changing your mindset and focusing on what you can be doing better and what you can do differently. And that'll change your business, hands down.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All of that. Let's go. And it's like, to kind of come back, it's everybody's struggling. There's like every single one of us probably has one of those GD things that I just can't absolutely believe this, and as if that didn't go that way, and blah, blah, blah. If you focus on that, that's going to consume you. If you focus on, look, yeah, this is a challenge. That's what I fucking signed up for, pretty much, that's every single one of us. We didn't do this because we figured it'd be easy to do, and everybody else that's listening, same thing. It's never going to be easy. There's all these challenges, and that's kind of what really makes it enjoyable. If you let those challenges consume you, then you're going to be challenged by those. If it's fuck, I've got this in place, I'm trying to get this done, I'm trying to do this, I have this goal, I'm working towards that, like it's all good, and that's basically it. Is it's sure, there's tons of struggles. We all have struggles. We could go on a 6-hour bitch fest, just the few of us that are in here, about every single fucking thing that's wrong. That's a nightmare for us to deal with. But it's end of the day, like, fuck it, it's work through it, and make some money, and build some beautiful projects.
I think it's easy see everybody's success, right? Like you can post a picture of a new shovel or a beautiful job that you did, your 5 new trucks or whatever, but you never see what's behind that, right? So if some other contractors are getting discouraged, maybe they're not making it or not making it as quickly as they think they should be. I didn't post right away that one of my workers flipped a 4-ton excavator in the middle of the road. That was a $5,000 loss that day for us, right? And you just take it on the chin and you go the next day and you make your $2,000 or whatever, and you at the end of the week you're square and you just deal with it, right? Like there's a solution for every problem. And Mike, you were saying like it's all about attitude. Absolutely. Like you're going to succeed if your attitude's right? Like glass half full every day when you wake up, at least half full.
Chad, for you especially, how much did change in your latitude change your attitude this year?
My what?
Your latitude going down south.
Oh,
Yummy buffet there.
You got to get out at least twice a year. Like I'm not a winter guy at all, but I found the winter flew by. Like just being out of here, like that's a goal of mine, and it almost completely changed my mentality. I'm refreshed, energized, ready to go again. Grateful that I got to go twice over the winter. It just really aligned me for what's coming up this year, and I think that's really important.
Hell yeah.
As much as I absolutely love what I do, it's so cool to be on a beach for a week. That's what I strive for. Like it's got to be a goal at least twice a year now, every year.
I've asked each and every one of you a question on the podcast, it being a horror story that you'd want to share with us. And I've heard some pretty terrible and incredible stories whenever I ask that question. But one thing remains consistent with everybody that I ask that to, and it's that mindset. It's that mindset that there's only one way forward. And it's you just don't dwell on it. You know, it's typically out of your control anyways. So why stew over it? Just move forward and get on with it. And I think that's an amazing way to kind of wrap up this whole conversation in terms of that mindset shift that Mike, you brought up there. But Antonio, do you have anything else that you want to add as we kind of come down to a close here?
Sorry, man.
No worries.
I actually was at Cabela's and I got two of my girls in the back, so I was picking up some new boots. I was enjoying the conversation. I just wasn't participating. So I think I'm gonna piggyback off Mike, man. And you know, one thing we control is our positivity. You know, and that's huge for me. I've gotten rid of more people for negative attitudes than anything out there. I've gotten rid of really, really good guys because of negative attitudes. And every day is, you know, we wake up every day is a blessing, man. And, you know, we should all be thankful to be owning a business. She wants to see. We should all, you know, we should wake up every day and be thankful that we own a business, that we have employees, you know, and I'm just thankful for things beyond that, you know. I mean, we live in a pretty good country, you know, and if you look at things going on across the world, you know, we're in a really good state, you know, and so I think a positive atmosphere, and I know Mike through some other groups, and just being in a group with other positive, like-minded people, you know, I think is great. And so I think what Mike said was great. I'll leave it at that.
That's a great way to the end of this roundtable. And we'll just go around, introduce where our audience can go find you. Any closing comments, remarks, anything that you want to leave the conversation with as we end here. Chad, we'll start with you. Natural Design Landscapes. Where can our audience go find you? And any closing comments, remarks?
The best way to find me, Natural Design Landscapes on Instagram, Facebook, whatever works for you guys, I guess. Ask me anything. Happy to help. I started small. Now I think I'm doing all right. So yeah, just happy to help.
Definitely. Mike, over to you. Elevate, where can our audience go find you, and anything that you want to leave them with?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Facebook and Instagram at elevate.mi. And we just started YouTube. So Elevate Outdoor Living. You know, anything, we all started in, you know, from the bottom, I guess. We weren't handed anything, you know, and so it can be done. It doesn't matter what stage you're at, you know, it can be done. And we all have different stages that we want to get to. So, you know, just focus on your goals and what is important to you, and don't focus on everybody else. We can all get lost in social media and see how glamorous it is. And that doesn't matter. There's great people on there. That is how I met every single person on this podcast here, is through social media. It's an amazing place to network and learn, but that's not what matters. And what matters is, you know, what is in front of you and what you're focused on. You will win at what you focus on, and just focus hard. You'll make it happen.
Excellent. And on to Craig Scheller, Scheller Outdoor Living. Craig, closing comments, remarks, where can our audience go find you?
Well, thanks for having me on again. And Scheller Outdoor Living on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And yeah, it's the beginning of the season. It feels like it just kept going for us because we kind of tried to plug through. But I definitely, you know, feel the pressure and starting to feel a little bit of impatience and things like that coming. So I think it's important just to, like, you know, yeah, stay focused, be positive. And like, I honestly, I try not to dwell on what's keeping me down. And I have my wife to talk to about those things, and you know, some friends and other mentors and things that I bounce those things off of, so that I can keep, you know, try to keep a positive outlook, and just try to keep communication up with my guys and my customers, and just try to make sure you're not promising anything you can't keep, and just and try to deliver. So I think that's important for the start of the season.
Matt, Hardscape Ottawa, where can our audience go find you? Closing comments, remarks.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all Hardscape Ottawa, hardscapeottawa.com. You know, happy to curse at you about how you're not being positive any day if you want to message me on that. You know, and just to kind of cycle back around of just like the, you know, you mentioned that there's a lot of guys sending you messages kind of wanting to hear about struggles and stuff. Is like, you know, there's everybody here and every other person that's ever tried to run a contracting business or any type of business has been through some struggles, probably a lot of the same ones as anybody listening. You know, it's really just all about your attitude, about how you handle all of that and how you work through it. Cause it's, you know, you're never going to hear about everybody else's worst day ever. You're only ever going to hear about their best days. But their worst days have been just as bad, maybe worse than any bad day that you'll have too. So it's, you know, if you're comparing yourself against what other people are doing, remember that shit happened possibly worse to them too. If you're comparing them against the best, remember that you know, maybe those worsts had that little bit of a payoff, and maybe you just haven't dealt with your worst thing yet, and that'll come, and then you'll get rewarded, you know. Yeah. But it all kind of comes around the attitude that you bring forth from all of that is going to be how you'll end up with the result at the end, sort of thing, of either that result being positive or negative. So even the bad stuff's a learning experience, you know.
Sometimes the best learning experiences. And Antonio, if you're still there, we'll go to you. But before that, just so you have some time, Mike of Paver King was also on here. You can follow him at Paver_King on Instagram. And he's got an OnlyFans that he's been promoting on this roundtable that he wants more and more people to come to and see him there. Antonio, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Antonio, where can our audience go find you? And any closing comments, remarks?
Yeah, on Instagram, I think our handle is a service for every season. And I would just say, you know, anybody that's struggling to join a group of like-minded people or a coach, I've always just found that to be super eye-opening, and just to be able to work through, you know, stuff with a group of people has always helped me out. So there's a lot of groups out there. There's a lot of coaches out there. A lot of them are very affordable, but I think just some consistency for you to be able to talk about your problems and not just dwell on them by yourself would be good.
Absolutely. And Antonio is Zeppa's or a service for every season on Instagram there. And nothing in life worth working on is easy. It's all difficult. And I think this conversation was a good one to have, as well as a good positive spin on it that Mike brought up there with mindset and just improving yourself and keeping that positive mindset to push through any struggles that you have. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today on this day. Thank you so much for taking the time. And that's the end of the podcast.
One last note too, if you want to email me, it's cameramanmatt@paverfans.com, and I'm actually the guy behind the lens on Mike's shot.
Oh, I can't imagine the things you've seen. Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Reach out to these guests that have been on the show. It really shows them that you appreciate their time and what they put into this episode, and I would personally appreciate that as well. Share this if you found it helpful for whatever reason. I do want your feedback on this type of content, going through struggles and whatever it might be in your business. Did you relate to it? Did you find it helpful? For whatever reason, I would really like some feedback on this. And if you need CFO services, accountants, bookkeepers that are specialized in the hardscape and landscape industry, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. And once again, mention How to Hardscape for $200 off. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast. How do I start my... Oh, man. Just brain fart here, guys. Brain fart.
Okay. You can edit it all out, right?
Yeah.
Just
Holy crap.
deal with this in post. It's fine.
I haven't even had a beer yet today. What's going on?
That's probably why.
Figure it out.
I've participated in the last 10 of these, and Mike has edited me out at all of them.
That's actually what's going on.